First, the topic of the seed of Mashiach will sprout from the depths of our times. Give me Tafshin Samach Zayin, verse 2.
I want to thank the Anhala for giving me the opportunity to speak here for you. I heard very great things about this Kehillah Kedosha, who are this Amate who strive to do a nachaschuach to the Rebbeinu Shleilam, to grow in Yiddishkeit. And the Rebbe should help you. I'll perhaps be a little apologetic now. When I started my career in Chinuch, I got instructions from a great educator, Elias Shalita, and he told me that I shouldn't be afraid to tell young people deep in Yanim. They understand it better than the middle-aged people, than the older ones. I'm going to speak with you deep in Yanim, Rabbi say. I have to apologize. Your Rebbe, Rabbi Rosenbaum, sort of rushed me. I wanted to speak next week for you, but I just didn't have any time to prepare. So I'm taking what I prepared for the coming Shabbos, and I'm going to try to deliver this to you. It may be a little deeper than what you are accustomed to, but Be'ezer Hashem, I'm sure that you're going to grasp it. I think, if my memory serves me, I think that last year, I spoke for you about Parshas Balak. Am I right? And I believe that I asked, why is the Sedra named Balak? The Gemara says that Nehemiah wasn't zeicha that a sefer should be called on his name. There is no Navi Nehemiah. There's Ezra, and part of Ezra is Nehemiah, but there's no Navi Nehemiah. He wasn't zeicha to be called, that a sefer should be called on his name, for a reason that the Gemara gives. So why is it that Balak was zeicha that a sefer should be called on his name? Last year, if I remember, we elaborated on that, but now I'm going to go on another road, Be'ezer Hashem, to Toras Kapata Shefaytzi Sela, and explain it from a different angle. And we'll start with a biur on Megillas Rus. I hope that you are all familiar with Megillas Rus, are they? Right, yeah? All right. So, Megillas Rus starts off, Vayelech ish mebeis Lechem Yehuda, lo gor b'zdei Mayav. Somebody, Elimelech, wants to live b'zdei Mayav, and today is spelled Shin Dalet Yud, and that's not according to Dikduk. Today Mayav should be Shin Dalet Hey, if it's a smichas, the field of Mayav. If it's Lashon Rabim, it should be Stais Mayav. Stai Mayav with a Yud is not Alpi Dikduk in Lashon HaKodesh. And it says, Vayevoyu Stai Mayav Vayiyu Sham, Elimelech and his family came to Stai Mayav, and they were there. And then it's also again with a Yud, but Tashav Mizdei Mayav, and she returned, Rus returned from Sdei Moav. Naomi returned from Sdei Moav. Kishama b'Sdei Moav, because she heard in Sdei Moav that Rebbe gave a lechem, that there is already panasa in Eretz Yisrael. And here, Kishama b'Sdei Moav, it's Shin Daled Hey, the way it's supposed to be written. And then again it says Sdei Moav with a Yud. And then at the end of the Megillah, when Rus was married to Vayaz, Vayayma Lagayel, Nachra Naomi Hashava Misdei Moav, here it says Sdei Moav with a Hey. And now we're going to go to Parshas Vayeshev and finish the Parsha of Yehuda and Tammuz. Vayihi ba'esahi, and it was in that time after the Mechir of Yosef, Vayered Yehuda me'yes Echav. Yehuda went down, he descended from his brothers. He had a Yerida. He had a great fall. Vayered Yehuda. The Parsha tells us that he had children that weren't such great tzaddikim. There's big kindness to his children, Eir and Einan. And then the episode that he had with Tamar, and without knowing that Tamar is his daughter-in-law, which is not very commendable for a person like Yehuda. He had a Yerida. He fell from his Madraiga. Vayered Yehuda. The Imre Yemes, the Gera Rebbe, tells us that David HaMelech, Melech Yisrael, who was Mashiach, went through all the ashpatais, all the garbages. If we look back at the origin of David HaMelech, it's not anything which is fit for the grandeur of David Melech Yisrael. His great-grandmother, the Bas Light, the daughter of Light, who gave birth to Moav, and the circumstances, how she gave birth to Moav, from a father Light. And this Light, this daughter of Moav, this Bas Moav, she had a grandchild whose name was Balak Melech Moav. And this Balak had a son whose name was Eglain Melech Moav. And this Eglain had a daughter whose name was Rus. And there were big shilas. There were machmirim, like you have, machmirim today, who wouldn't dare to intermarry into the mishpacha of Bayaz, because they're not kosher lovely b'kahal. They come out from Moav. Moav is also lovely b'kahal. A Yid is not allowed to marry any, well, a woman, yeah, but we're going to talk about it, but we're not allowed to intermarry with Moav. Never. Yehuda was the Nasi. Yehuda, from him Malchus Beis comes out, and the pasuk says Yehuda Gava B'Yechav. He is the Nasi of all the brothers. You see, even though he is the fourth son of Yaakov Avinu, but he's always first to talk. It's in his encounter that he had with Yosef, Yehuda, Vayigash of Yehuda, it's Yehuda who talked. When Yehuda argued with Yaakov Avinu that he should send Binyamin down, it was Yehuda who did so. Yehuda is always like the Melech. He's Geva B'Yechav, and from him Malchus Beis David comes out. Yehuda, by the children of Yehuda, we find many inyanim that aren't so glistening. They are ashpates, garbage cans, like some of them that we mentioned now. Yehuda, being that he's the Melech, he is Kayilel, or the Dairais. He is the Melech of Order Dairais, and the Melech, like, incorporates in himself all his subjects. He's like the Reish of them, like the head is the controller of the entire Guf. Yehuda controls Klal Yisrael. Or the Tyrus, Yehuda, whatever he did, had its imprints on not only on his generation, but all the Dairas all the way down into our very Daira, the low Daira of Vikvus of the Mashiach. Yehuda had to go through all these low madreigas because he was like the symbol of Yidden when they fall in the low madreiga, like our generation. Our generation is very, very low. The Yetzaharas that we have today, the Nisyanas that we have today, the lack of tznius, the lack of emunah that we all bear testimony to today. Yehuda knew all this, and it was within him that like he is from him all the seed of Malchus came down. He incorporates whole Klal Yisrael. Yehuda, being the Reish of Klal Yisrael, went down into the lowest depths that Klal Yisrael will ever fall to, today that he should be able to pick them up from there. That's what the Imre Emes explains. That's why we find that in the family and in the children of Yehuda, there were so many falls. It's not that they actually fell because of rishus, because of lack of Yiras Shamayim. It was Min HaShamayim that they had to fall, because they're the Malachim. And when they fall, they get up. Kara Shachav Ka'ari, it says by Yehuda. When he falls, he's like an Ari. A lion gets up. A lion is courageous. When a lion falls, it doesn't remain fallen. He gets up. Yehuda falls to pick up those Yidden who actually fell down and they can't pick themselves up with their own energy, and he picks them up. David HaMelech had this inyan with Bathsheba to teach tshuva to a yachid, to pick up every yachid, to encourage every yachid to do tshuva. Look, David HaMelech, reached such a low madreiga. And I got up. I did tshuva. I rose. You should also rise. And with the kayach of his malchus, he activates that all Yidden were, no matter how deep they fall, they should be able to rise. Like David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Shachal ha'afa nafsheinu, dafka la'aretz b'tneinu. I went down, mamish, I prostrate on the ground. Shachal ha'afa nafsheinu. Kuma ezras alanu. The Rebbe will pick us up. Yehuda falls down to pick up those who are fallen there, and with his rise, he takes them along. There are 21 times Yovel in the Torah. Count how many times Yovel are in the Torah. In Parshas V'Habachakaisai, you have 20 times Yovel. And then once in Parshas Masei. The last time, the 21st time. there are 21 madregas in Yovel, and the hashlama of the Yovel is the 21st chapter, and the Yovel means return. And when the shofar of Yovel is sounded, the Shavta Mishalachuzase, Yidden return. And Yehuda, who had this great fall, Vayered Yehuda Mayes Echav, these 4 words is Begematria Yiyah HaYovel Levnei Yisrael. Yovel, that's Bias HaMashiach, the shofar of Mashiach. Shofar means Yovel. He went down to the lowest madrega. The Tanya explains that the Rabbeinu Shalom's Oyer Ein Seif, the fire of the Rabbeinu Shalom comes down into the lowest madregas. The essence of the Rabbeinu Shalom, the Metzius of the Rabbeinu Shalom, comes down to the lowest madregas. Up to earth, there are 4 elements that everything in nature, it consists of one or a mixture of these elements. Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Nafal. Scientifically, they would call it energy and solids and liquids and gas. Eish, Ruach, Mayim, and Nafal. The lowest one is Afal, the ground, earth. And so the Balatanya explains that only from earth we find growth. Fire or water or aish, you won't find growth there. But from the earth, you will find growth. Through grass, trees, they grow from the earth. Because the kayach that the earth produces and the plant grows up, that's called bria, creation. The Rabbeinu Shalom created the world, yesh me'ayin, something from nothingness. That's called bria. He created Metzius, he created existence from non-existence. Every person, everyone who creates something, either he manufactures or it's something of art, he takes material, and from that material he creates. But the Rabbeinu Shalom took nothing, and from nothing he created. Yesh me'ayin, existence from non-existence. Tzmicha, when the earth gives rise to plants, it's yesh me'ayin. It isn't. It's a kayach of tzmicha, a new creation. The kayach of creation from the Rabbeinu Shalom comes down to the lowest madrega, and from that lowest madrega it starts creating. It comes to the highest madrega. The lowest madrega are we. We are the last generation. We're in the last set of generations. The Chafetz Chaim in his time, and the Tanya already in his time, wrote that we already reached the depths of Ikvus of the Mashiach, the lowest madrega that the Dairas can reach. We are a very low Daira, and because we are low, we are just like the earth. And because we are like the earth, we could be matzmiach, we could create. The Bias HaMashiach is called Tzemach David. A tzemach is a plant which grows from the ground in the Pchina of Yesh Meyaya, from a tiny little kernel in the ground. You have a plant or a tree can grow up with thousands upon thousands of apples, just from the pit of one apple. That's Yesh Meyaya. It's something from nothingness, from the ground. David HaMelech, the generation of Mashiach, will rise up from nothingness. We are the ground. We are the lowest madrega. So, therefore, whenever we speak about Mashiach, we speak in terms of tzmicha, of a plant rising from the ground. As tzemach David Meirus atzmiach, Bachata Hashem atzmiach keren Yeshua. Hineni Mevi as Avdi tzemach. Mashiach will rise up like a plant from the ground, as if from nothingness. The tafkid of our daya, the calling of our daya, is to be matzmiach keren Yeshua. We're supposed to produce Mashiach. That's our calling. This is our tafkid. That's our shlichus that the Rebbeinu Shalom sent us into this generation where we find ourselves, to bring forth the plant of Mashiach, the Tzemach David. So, Vayered Yehuda Meyasechav. By the story of Tammuz, Yehuda had a yeriza. He had a fall. Why did he fall? He fell to the ground. Because in the ground, there is the Tzemach David. He has to give rise to Mashiach, to Peretz, the daughter of Tammuz. And it was in such a way as if Yehuda fell, because the circumstances of the birth of Peretz weren't such wonderful circumstances. There weren't tzniyadik circumstances, but that's how the Rebbeinu Shalom does it. There are reasons for that, because the Satan is mekadchek. Whenever the Satan has an inkling that Mashiach is coming, he's going to come and taina, no, the generation doesn't deserve it, and it's not fair to Esav, and it's not fair to Edom, and it's not fair to Ammon and Moav. So the Rebbe makes it in such a way as if he comes forth from the garbage can, from the ashpa, like the Imre Emes says. So it had to be that way. It had to be from the ground, from the earth, from the soil. So the pasuk says that the Rebbeinu Shalom promises that Mashiach will be the Gayel who redeems. V'zachat es brisi Avraham, v'af es brisi Yitzchak, v'af es brisi Yankov Eskaya, v'ha'aretz Eskaya. I'm going to remember the ground. Who is the ground? The Rebbe remembers Avraham and Yitzchak and Yankov and the ground. Pashtus, it means Eretz Yisrael. But what derech eretz is it? When you speak about the Avei Segedoshim, I remember Avraham and Yitzchak and Yankov and the ground. So the Zohar explains that the ground, Eretz, means David HaMelech, who fell to the ground. And all the young years of David HaMelech, people looked at him like somebody who's pasul avei b'kal. And even when he became Melech, there was criticism on him that he doesn't deserve to be Melech, because he's not royal avei b'kal. And especially after the story of Bathsheba, David came from the ground. He is the Oretz. And the Rebbeinu Shalom will remember Avraham, Yitzchak, Yankov, and David, the four Raglayim of the Merkava. And David is like the ground. The tzmicha comes from the ground. David is even more chashuv than Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yankov. He's the last madrega, Malchus it's called. He goes down all the way down to the ground to give forth tzmicha, so that there should be a plant which rises from the soil. That is the tafkid. That is the function of David HaMelech. Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Yisrael. Pchinas HaMalchus. It's the last madrega. The Pchina of David HaMelech. Ha'aretz Esker, in fact, is Begematria HaMelech HaMashiach ben David. Like Isaiah says, that Ha'aretz means David HaMelech. And when Yehuda had his Yerida, Vahi Ba'esahi, Vayered Yehuda Ma'yesachav, so Vahi Ba'esahi actually is Begematria Ha'aretz Esker. That's why Yehuda went down to the ground, because the seed of Mashiach has to grow up now from the ground through Peretz. So but it wasn't in the matzahs, in circumstances where he reached the lowness of the ground. In Rus, you probably remember the story that Rus came to visit Boaz. It was in the middle of the night. It would seem to us when we read Rus and when we understand the psukim, the way it seems on the surface, that it wasn't a very tzniistic encounter. However, so you say the same lashon that you have by Yehuda, you also have by Rus. But Teirat HaGayrim, she went down to the Gayrim. She went down. Gayrim is the place of Malchus. The Beis HaMikdash is called Gayrim. Gayrim Arnei. The Bnei Yisachar in Parshas Vayechi, on the pasuk Gayrim Ha'atad, explains Al Pi Kabbalah why Malchus Beis David and the Beis HaMikdash is called Gayrim. But we won't go into that. But it's enough for us to know that Gayrim means Malchus Beis David, the lowest madrega, Malchus. So, and when Naomi instructed Rus to go to the Gayrim, she said, "V'yeradet ha'Gayrim." You should go down to the Gayrim. The circumstances aren't so tzniistic. You're going to go down, but it has to be that way, because if they are going to be in the normal circumstances, the Satan won't allow David HaMelech to come. And from this marriage, David HaMelech has to come. Mashiach has to come. So Rus was supposed to do it in a knife, that the Satan shouldn't catch on that Mashiach ben David is going to be the product of her coming to Boaz. So Vateirat HaGayrim, she went down. She was the tzniistic Rus. And we find very interestingly that these two women, Tamar and Rus, the Torah exalts them because of their tznius. By Tamar, it says that Yehuda, when he saw Tamar on the road, he didn't know that that's his daughter-in-law. Ki kisesa paneha, because she covered her face. So the Gemara explains that for many years, Tamar lived in Yehuda's house, at his home. And Yehuda never saw Tamar. She was so tzniistic that there was never any opportunity that he should be able to see her. So when he saw her, he didn't recognize her. This is the tznius of Tamar. By Rus, also, the pasuk makes it a point to tell us about the tznius of Rus. It says that when Boaz came to the field, he said, "L'mi anaraz, I saw this girl." So the Gemara asks, is it nice for Boaz to ask about a girl? So the Gemara answers, he saw that she was very outstanding in tznius. Devat tznius rabba. So he was wondering it's a generation at that time, like our generation, wasn't particularly tzniusdik. So he says, who is this tzniusdik girl? So we see that Dafka, by these two women, that their bringing forth the seed of Mashiach was not in the tzniusdik eifin. The Torah makes it a point to introduce them that they are tzniusdik women. So, in fact, the Zayah tells us that Rus was a Gilgal of Tammuz. She had the Neshama of Tammuz. And whatever happened to Tammuz happened to Rus. Tammuz had to bring Mashiach, and with all her tznius, she descended to a non-tznius situation. And the same thing is with Rus. Her Gilgal. So it says over there that Tammuz was tzniusdik. He didn't know that this is his daughter-in-law. He never saw her. She was so tzniusdik. She always had her face covered. And this tzniusdik Tammuz, the pasuk says, "Vatesha the Pesach enayim al derech." She sat there on the road, exposed to everybody to see her. She went about Teiret, and she had a Yerida for the purpose of bringing Mashiach from the very lowness of the soil, of the ground, of the tzmicha. So then, afterwards, the Yehuda inquired. He wanted to get back his mashkin. Did you see this Kedisha on the derech? Did you see this Kedisha, this prostitute on the derech? So they answered the Lahaisa Kedisha. There was no prostitute here. The Torah tells us. The Torah screams out loud. You say that Tamar is a Kedisha? The Torah says, there was never any Kedisha here. Whatever she did l'shem shemayim, to bring Mashiach to Klal Yisrael. And the same thing is with Rus. She went down to the Geiren, she had a Yerida. So the Torah says this. Is the Gematria, the same thing like her first Gilgal. The Torah says, no, she's a tzniusdik woman. She's bringing Mashiach, and it's just that it has to be concealed from the sun. So the lowest madrega is Malchus shebemalchus. When we tell Sfira, we start from Chesed, and then we go down to Gevura, then to Feres, and then the 49th day is Malchus shebemalchus. But when we reach Malchus shebemalchus, the lowest madrega can be any lower. So the next day, what should we do? Should we knock our heads against the rocks? No, the next day is a Shara Chamisha. It's Shavuos, the Shaifa, Yovel. That's what's going to happen to Klal Yisrael. When we reach the most low madrega, we're already entering into Mashiach. I'm here in the Shaifa of Mashiach. The next day is the Kailah Shaifa of Mashiach, of Matan Torah, of Yovel, the 50th day. When Yidden traveled in the Midbar, they had 49 Masais. They had 49 points where they traveled from one point to another point, from one location to another location. If you're going to count them in the Torah, you're going to find 42. And we call it the Membeis Masais. But actually there was 49. Because like Asha says in last week's Sedra, that they went back 7 Masais. Together it's 49. In Sfira, you probably know that by Sfira Saima we say under the Kayach. And under the Kayach has 42 words. We see the same Membeis. But at the end of every week we go back 7 times, which is 49. And therefore, there's one ice of Ana Bekayach for all the 49 days of Sfira. The 42, which is actually 49. And the same thing is with the Membeis Masais that the Yidden were in the Midbar, they're actually 49. The lowest one, the 49th one, is Mayav. The Sadre Chukas, which is, and the last pasuk in Chukas, which is right the pasuk before Vayad Balak ben Sipar, tells us that Yidden reached the 49th location that they traveled to. Vayachnu bi'avei Shmayad asher al Eva Yad and Meyeva Yad and Yereichi. And they reached Mayav. The 49th Madrega, the lowest Madrega, Malchus Shebemalchus. In fact, Mayav is B'gematria 49. They're the lowest Madrega. So, once we reached that 49th Madrega, we hit the rock bottom, the soil, the Ha'aretz Eskaya. We're on the ground already, we're on the soil. But Ha'aretz means Malchus Beis David. In other words, here, David HaMelech has to appear. Elimelech went down to the Imkei Atlipais, to the very depths of all the Sitra Achra, to bring back Rus from Mayav. There's no Ummah, no nation as low as Mayav. Mayav is also Lavei Bikahal. The worse than the Mitzrayim, than the Adaimim, forever and forever. Even Adayra Siri, they're also Lavei Bikahal. This is the lowest Madrega of Mayav. B'gematria 49, the lowest Madrega. And when Yidden reached Avei Mayav, they came to the last day of Sfira, Malchus Shebemalchus. The evenings of Mayav, Avei Mayav. There, when they reached the ground, is the Makem of Tzmicha. That's when, from the soil, now Mashiach will start coming forth. Elimelech went to Mayav. V'shema ish Elimelech, which is B'gematria, in the name maybe is Avdi Tzemach. He's going to bring David HaMelech. He went down to the Klippa of Mayav to release the nitzitz of David HaMelech, which is hidden in Rus. Now, as we mentioned before, Rus was a grandchild of Balak ben Sipar. Balak, the king of Mayav, his grandchild was Rus. And the Gemara says that in the schus of the Membeis Kabanis, that Balak was makriv in this week's Sedra. He was Zeichet to Shleima Melech Elef Eilis Yala Shleimai, who was makriv 1,000 Kabanis. He was Zeichet to Shleima Melech, from whom Mashiach has to come out. The Rambam says that Mashiach comes out after to Shleima Melech. So Balak had within himself the seed of David HaMelech, because from him comes out Rus. Balak certainly wasn't anybody who was interested in Mashiach coming. In fact, Balak was a big klippa. He was like a prison. He imprisoned the nitzitz of David HaMelech in himself. He was like a shell of a nut, a hard shell that it's hard to break open, to crack open that shell and come to the kernel inside. Balak was a clip. He was like the Ola covering the Kedusha. And in this week's Sabbath, he's afraid of the Yidden who Yashev Mimuli. And the Svarim explain he was afraid that the Yidden are going to mala him. Because when you make bris milah and you cut off the Allah, the Eis Bris Kaidish appears. which is concealed under the olah. Balak was a clipper, like the shell that conceals the nut. Balak, as the person Balak, the worst thing that could happen to Balak was that from him Mashiach should come out. I think I spoke about this last year. Balak knew that Mashiach has to come from him, and he was so irritated by that. He was so unhappy with it. He must do everything that Mashiach should not come out of him, that he should keep this nitzitz of Rus imprisoned in him, so that it should never be released, and that David the Malach should come out of him, that Rus should be able to go to Eretz Yisrael and be Megayer herself. Balak had sleepless nights. He was a big menachesh. He knew with Keshev, he knew what's going to happen. He knew that the Rus will come out of him, and that the Kevin David is within him. He didn't want that should be ever released. Let it be imprisoned. So Balak sent to Midian, who Yashiv Mimuli, but Chasasein Eretz, we are Saviv Rishayim is Alachu. The clip is always a rose, is always surrounded by thorns, by sticky thorns. He was the thorn that doesn't allow it doesn't allow anyone to enjoy the fragrance of the rose. He's the clip around it, the shell around it. So he was afraid they're going to take away the sliva, the Saviv Rishon Yisrael, and that Rus, my grandchild, should ever be able to appear and be released from the clipper, from the shell of Moav, and bring forth Malchus Beis David. I think I mentioned this last year also, that Malchus Beis David is called a tzipaya, like a singing bird that arrives. The Chaim HaKadosh says that in Parshas Tazria, that Yidden have two birds, Mashiach ben David and Mashiach ben Yosef. Mashiach is called a tzipaya. And this tzipah is hidden in Moav. Balak saw ben tzipah, that he's going to have a son who's going to be Mashiach, and that embittered his life. He just can't see. He just can't take of it. Now, in Moav, you have Mashiach hidden. Well, take Moav. The word Moav. The mem of Moav is mem, which is spelled mem. The vav of Moav is spelled vav yud vav. That's called the milui, the filling of the Isias. The aleph of Moav is aleph lamet pei. The base of Moav is base yud tav. All these 12 Isias, which is the filling of Moav, is begematria es avdi tzanach. The tzmicha of David HaMelech is within Moav, and it's there imprisoned over there, and the Balak won't let it out. Now, there is a sefer which was authored by Avram Avinu, which is called Sefer Yetzirah. And you have a little excerpt from that in the Tikkun Le'er Shavuos. So it says in that sefer that whatever the Rabbeinu Shalom created, he created in 3 copies. The same thing, but in 3 copies. Olam, Shana, Nefesh. In other words, space, time, and neshama. Everything that you have in neshama, you will find its corresponding match in time, and also in space. I'll give you a little dogma. There are 10 madregas in Eretz Yisrael. like the Mishnah says in Keilah. The highest Madreg is a Kodesh HaGadoshim in the Beis HaMikdash. The Kodesh HaGadoshim is a place in space. It's a place. Nothing. Then there is a Neshama which is Kodesh HaGadoshim. The Kohen Gadol, Aaron HaKayim. Vayavdel Aaron L'Kadshay Kodesh HaGadoshim. Vayavdel Aaron L'Kadshay Kodesh HaGadoshim. Then there is a day which is Kodesh HaGadoshim. That's Yom Kippur. In Zman, in time. And on Yom Kippur, the day of Kodesh HaGadoshim, so the Kohen Gadol, the Nefesh of Kodesh HaGadoshim, enters the place of Kodesh HaGadoshim. So you have all these corresponding agents, these three combined together. And that's what creates the Yom Kippur. So everything in the world, you will find that whatever you find in the nefesh, its match correspondingly you will find in a certain zman, and you will find in a certain makom. There is a place of mayav. We'll call it stay mayav. The meadow, the field of mayav. That's a makom, a place. In that place, Mashiach is there. He's in presence in Mayav. There is a nefesh of Mayav. The nefesh of Mayav is Baslight, the daughter of light, who has in her seed, the nefesh of Mashiach, of Mayav, a time of Mayav, where Mashiach is imprisoned. There's a certain time that in that time, if you would fantasize and think about a certain time as if that time is a prison consisting of time, and that time Mashiach is imprisoned. A very low time, a very wretched time, a time which is like Ophel. What is that time? Tammuz and Av. The Chadashim of Chol and Beis HaMikdash. Because we know that Mashiach is hidden in this time. In fact, the way the Sefer makes the Cheshbon, the Chasana of Bayaz and Ruz was on Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. The Medrash tells us that Mashiach will be born on Tisha B'Av. The Yemei HaMitzarim, Tammuz and Av generally, the Chadashim, when the Meraglim traveled and they caused the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, this is the lowest part of the year. The days of Tammuz and Av are Midas Hadin, and they are low times as opposed to the high times, the great times, like Tishrei and Nisan. So, just like the nefesh of Mashiach is imprisoned in the nefesh of Mayav, Bas Light, the daughter of light, so Bein HaMitzarim is the time in which Mashiach is imprisoned. Bein HaMitzarim means that 3 weeks between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av. That's how the Gemara calls it. That's what the pasuk calls it. Kol Reitzai Sigura Bein HaMitzarim, the pasuk in Eicha. Bein HaMitzarim is B'Gematria Bas Light. Because just like Bas Light, the daughter of light, was a nefesh in which Mashiach was imprisoned, Bein HaMitzarim is a time in which Mashiach is imprisoned. And the Navi Zechariah says, which means Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av, Yihu L'Beis Yehuda L'Sasan U'L'Simcha U'L'Mayad and Taiva. These 3 weeks when Mashiach will come will be transformed into the greatest Yom Tovim that you can think of. Yom Tovim of Mashiach. And Mashiach is going to appear in these 3 weeks. And we're waiting for him to come. Like I mentioned before, this Shabbos Parshas Balak, where Mashiach is imprisoned in Balak, and it's a Shabbos before Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. where Mashiach is imprisoned that day. And when Rus married Boaz and Shiva Asa Tammuz, the Zman was released from prison. Now it's imprisoned again because of the Churban Beis Hamikdash, because of the Sinas Chinam, and we're waiting that this time he should be released again from his prison, and it'll be like the Navi Zechariah says, "L'sasin u'lesimcha u'lemayim tzayivim," because this man of Beis Hamikdash is going to produce David HaMelech. That Yemei Bikurei Anadim is the Gematria Hayilid as David. That's Shiva Sabatam. But the clip of Balak is Meyakev. The Balak doesn't allow the Neshama of Mashiach to be released. So already, as far as Makim is concerned, Mashiach is released because the clip of Mayav was broken, of the land of Mayav, and Rus appeared, and Rus emerged from there. As far as Nefesh is concerned, the clip of Balak was broken, and Rus emerged from there. As far as man is concerned, the clip of Tammuz and Nav is not broken. And we're waiting that it should be broken, it should be cracked, and Mashiach ben David should emerge from these 3 weeks and these 2 Chadashim of Tammuz and Av, Yemei Mitzvah. So we are waging a very terrible war right now. Every year when we come to Tammuz and Av, we declare war on the Klippa of Balak, the Klippa of Mayav, which keeps imprisoned the Zman of Mashiach Tzidkenu. There is everything that you have in the Torah, in the world, you have in the Torah. The Torah is a blueprint of the world, the Mother says. So if you have the Klippa of Ammon and Mayav, which imprisons Mashiach, Mayav imprisoned David, and Ammon imprisoned Shloimeh, the mother of Shloimeh, the wife of Shloimeh, was Naamah Aminus. So the Torah, so there is a place in the Torah where you can find it on the map. That clip that you can find on the map. Where on the map would you find it? The Torah says, "Layave Amayni umayavi b'kal Hashem." Ammon and Mayav is also Lavei b'kal, the 2 children of the Baslai, of the Bnei Slait. They're also Lavei b'kal. That pasuk is the place in the blueprint where you find the clip of Mayav and Ammon. Layavi Amayni Mayavi b'kal Hashem. But Adarabah, in that pasuk alone, you find that the kernel inside that prison is Mashiach. Because Layavi Amayni Mayavi b'kal Hashem is the Gematria Oived Avi Yishai Avi David. That's the last. That's how Megillah ends. That's how David HaMelech was born. He is the kernel, the eichel that emerges from that clip. Do we have another 10 minutes? Okay. Now, in Torah we have 2 sections, Torah Shebiksav and Torah Shebial Peh, which is Zachar and Nekeba. Torah Shebial Peh is the Pchina of the Isha. Torah Shebiksav is the Pchina of the Zachar. That's how the Sforim explain it. I won't elaborate now. So that's why the Gemara says that if somebody is without Isha, he's without Torah. Because in the neshama of his zivug are hidden the Chedusha Torah that he can have. The zivug that he will have or that he has. His Chedusha Torah are there. The zivug of Boaz was Rus. When Rus appeared appeared in the field of Bayaz, Lechalkas Asada Asher Bayaz. That's exactly when Bayaz was Mechadesh the din of Mayavi V'lai Mayavis, that a woman of Mayav is Muta, only the Zachal of Mayav is Zachal. That was his Chiddush in the Torah, which was hidden in Rus. The Gayel, the other one, the uncle of Bayaz, who didn't want to be Miyabein Rus, he had no shaykhs to that Chiddush. So, therefore, he had no attraction. He had no inclination to be miyabim rus. And so Bayaz told him, Shva Pai Pleini Almaini. This guy, whose name was Taif, refused to be miyabim rus because he was first in order to be miyabim. Bayaz was second in order. So, why? Because he held that a mayavis is also lavei bikaho, that she's also. He didn't hold like Bayaz, who was mechadesh that mayavi v'lai mayavis. So Bayaz told them, Surah Shva Pai Pleini Almaini. You Pleini Almaini, come over here. So the Gemara says, Rashi brings it in the Megillah of Rus, why is it called Pleini Almaini? Because he's Almain Didrei Torah. He's an Alman, like a widower of Didrei Torah. He doesn't know the Chiddush Shaykhs to Rus. This Chiddush, which is in the wife of Bayaz, has no Shaykhs to him. He's an Alman as far as she's concerned. He doesn't know Shemayavi V'lai Mayavis. So he can't be Mechadish, that Chiddush, which is hidden in the Rus. Only Bayaz could. Because on this Taif, this Gayel was the clip of Balak, who doesn't allow the Mayavis to become into the Kol. Shva Pai Pleini Almaini is the Gematria Balak Ben Sipa Melech Mayav. He's like Balak. He doesn't allow that nitzvot to be released. Now, the Ramban says in the Haggadah to Teresh and Chumash, "Ein lanu eisik ben estaris." I want for those who have no shaykhs to it, we won't speak Nestaris, Divrei Kabbalah. Kabbalistic inyanim is no inyan to speak about. We're not going to talk about Nestaris. But there are certain inyan which a Chassidish Sfarim bring down, which we could talk about. The Shem Havaya has 4 Isiyas, Yud Kei, Vav Kei. The highest Madreiga is the Yud. Over the Yud, there's a little, like a crown, a little kite, the point which is over the Yud. And that's the 10th Madreiga, like the Kodesh HaKadoshim of the Shem Havaya. In Sfarim, in the Zayah, that's called Atika. Atika means it's removed. Atika also means it's old.